Welcome to Heart to Talk, the podcast. I am the host and creator, Teresa Caesar. My intention for this podcast is to deliver to you wisdom, inspiration, and consciousness through solo episodes and conversations amongst insightful people. It is my greatest honor to bring to you talks that come from the heart. Hey, amazing souls, welcome back to another powerful episode with me. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And I want you to really take that in, not just hear it, but actually feel it. Because where you are right now, listening to this podcast, it's not an accident that you press play on this episode, that you're hearing these words right here, right now. You're not only meant to be in this moment, you're meant to be in this version of your life, in this exact chapter, or in the season you are in your life, in your money, your relationships, in your career, your body, your health, isn't random. When I say I am where I'm supposed to be, I'm not saying this is as good as it gets or don't dream bigger. I'm saying choose presence over panic, choose power over self-judgment. When I wake up, I remind myself, I'm here for a purpose. There is something here for me today. When I'm in a meeting or in a conversation, instead of wishing I was already at the next meeting or the next level, I think, how can I turn this moment into gold? And how can I turn my day into gold? When something goes wrong, when I lose my keys, my car acts up, a plan gets delayed, instead of spiraling or being reactive, I remember if I'm here, I'm supposed to be here. And there is data, protection, redirection in this moment and in the pause. This affirmation, I'm where I'm supposed to be, does not mean being passive. It means using where you are as your launch pad. You're allowed to desire more love, more money, more purpose, and more health. The point is to stop abandoning yourself now while chasing the later. There are no accidents. There are only assignments and information. Every experience is showing you what's aligned, what needs to heal, and what cannot come with you into your next level. This moment is not a mistake. It's an invitation. It's a reflection. It's a result. It's data. It's an echo. And today we're going to go deeper into the affirmation, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Not just as something to say, but something to understand. Because when you understand this, you stop fighting life or resisting, and you actually start working with it. So let's talk about why this is true and what I mean by you start working with life. There are universal spiritual laws that are always at play, whether you're aware of them or not. Just like gravity exists, these laws are always shaping your experience. Different teachings name different numbers as far as how many spiritual universal laws there are. Some say 7, some say 12. But the truth is, they all point back to the same idea. There are unseen principles guiding your reality. And what I love about these laws is they connect the human experience to something greater. And most importantly, these laws are neutral. They're not here to punish you. They're not here judging you. They're not even here to reward you. They're just here to reflect and show you. And when you understand that, you realize you can actually master yourself and your life in a completely different way because you are the source of power. And that's why I say that we are the magic. It's one of my favorite affirmations within my affirmation deck. I am the magic. Because we're just so powerful. We're beyond just the human capabilities, right? We're these divine beings, energetic beings. And so these universal spiritual laws help us work with the combination of the human experience with the spiritual. And so this affirmation, I am where I'm supposed to be, works hand in hand with that truth. Because where you are right now is showing you something. And this is where the law of recurrence, or the echo law, I like to call it, comes in. The law of recurrence is the idea that life will keep looping similar situations, patterns, and relationships back to us until there's a real shift in how we respond and in our consciousness. You can think of it as an echo of your inner world. So whatever you habitually think and feel, believe, and choose will eventually just show up again and again in your outer reality, just in slightly different costumes. Think of the people that break up with someone and then they date someone else that has literally the same attributes as like the same person, but in a different body. Or you've heard of people that are like, oh my gosh, I hate this job. I don't like it. So then they move and they go to another job. Same problems are happening. They go to another job. So if you can see, there's a cycle about it's not really the reality that needs to change, it's you, right? Because then the reality will respond differently to you because your consciousness has shifted. So that's where the shift is. The shift within shifts everything around. So, from a spiritual perspective, recurrence is not here to punish you. It's just here to show you something. Life acts like a mirror and a teacher at the same time. When a theme keeps repeating, maybe it's the same kind of partner, the same money stress or problems, the same friendship drama, it's a sign that there is an unintegrated lesson underneath the surface. Often we try to change the scenery, like I just mentioned, right? The job, the city, the relationship, even the schedule. But if our core beliefs, our emotional defaults, and our unconscious patterns stay the same, guess what? The story just finds a whole new cast of people and repeats itself. So, what recurrence says, right? This life law, until you meet this pattern with awareness, notice it and choose differently, pass the test. If you don't, I'll lovingly bring it back around so you can see it again. This is where your power comes in. The moment you recognize a recurring pattern and ask, what is this here to show me? What am I believing, tolerating, or rehearsing inside that keeps calling this in? You step out of just reliving the loop and into rewiring it. When you actually embody the lesson, right? Learn the lesson, set the boundary, open your heart, forgive, receive support, change the belief, and most important, have the courage, right, to take aligned action. The energy of that cycle completes. It's like you passed the test, one of life school's tests in your journey, in your soul's journey. So, in simple terms, the law of recurrence says what you don't transform, you tend to repeat, and what you do transform, you graduate from. Once the lesson is integrated and your consciousness shifts, this specific pattern no longer needs to come back. Life can respond to your new frequency with new opportunities, new dynamics, and a new chapter that reflects who you have become. The power is in your hands. So it's time to bring in that new echo. So, where you are right now is the echo of your past thoughts, your past beliefs, your past words, your past actions. Your current reality is your past consciousness on display. And here's where it gets real. And I love to bring in the science. Neuroscientists say we think about 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And about 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts from the day before. And about 90% of them are also not necessarily positive, right? A lot of them are negative. So if your thoughts are the same, your choices are the same, your actions are the same, your energy is the same, then your life will keep echoing the same patterns, feelings, results. That's recurrence. That's the loop. So what interrupts the loop is the new thought, the new belief, the new words, the new actions. And that is exactly why I love affirmation so much. Because sometimes it's hard to think of a new thought on your own when you've been living life in the same patterns, right? Brushing your teeth with your right hand every morning, driving the same way to work, listening to the same, people on the news. But when you introduce something new and intentionally, you interrupt the cycle and you literally create a new echo. That's why pulling a card and seeing I'm unstoppable. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Everything I need is within me. I trust myself. I am powerful. I am capable. Because now you're thinking something different, new, and even empowering. And that thought starts to ripple and take effect because your body is listening, right? And life is listening, the universe. And that ripple becomes your new reality. You start drowning out the old echoes with new ones. And that is where manifestation becomes really powerful, but also really simple. The fastest way to create the life you want is to become intentional about the echoes you're creating. So instead of consciously repeating the past, you consciously choose what's next. You get to decide, right? You make the rules. It is your life. So if you're not liking what's happening now, and when it comes to relationships or your health and wellness or in love, in your career or your business and money, wherever it is, you can choose what's next and decide different. Here's a little reflection that you can start right now. And I like to do it at the beginning of the month because it takes me time to integrate when I'm bringing in new things and to reflect. And you could even do this at the end of the week, however, is best for you. And just ask yourself, like, what am I no longer available for? What am I ready to release? What am I choosing instead? And let's make this real. So if it's love, right? I'm going to give love as an example. Maybe you're releasing chasing, inconsistency, settling, and you're now choosing mutual effort, clarity, emotional safety, reciprocation. So then your affirmation is I no longer entertain anything that feels misaligned. And you say that over and over. I choose love that is consistent, secure, and reciprocal. And then your action, here's where it gets super powerful. You have to act like the person versus like, I have the love that I desire, but you have to be the person, right, that matches that love. So your action is you set boundaries, you stop overgiving, and you choose differently. So if it's money, maybe you're releasing scarcity or fear. If you have a business, from maybe stop undercharging, and you're now going to start choosing overflow and confidence and really being open to receive. And your affirmation would be I am open to receiving more than enough. I get paid to exist. I'm paid for my value. And your action will be to raise your standards, your prices, if you're in business, your expectations, maybe dive into some financial literacy education, read some books, follow people that are masters when it comes to money, right? And in health, maybe you're releasing inconsistency or self neglect, and you're choosing now discipline, energy, self respect. And your affirmation would be I take care of my body because I love it. My body is my temple and I honor it. And your action will be you move your body, you hydrate, you nourish yourself with good foods. And if it's relationships, maybe you're releasing people pleasing or even maybe people that are draining or toxic or silencing yourself. And you start choosing honesty, expression, and alignment, choosing spaces and places and people that feel aligned. And your affirmation is I always communicate my truth. I'm safe in all my relationships. I'm seen and honored. And your action would be that you speak up. You literally put up the boundary and you honor yourself, your truth. You have that uncomfortable conversation. Brene Brown says the most compassionate people are the most boundaried. And we always think the opposite. Like if I put up a boundary, they're going to think I'm mean and I feel bad. We always feel bad for choosing ourselves. But at the end, we're like depleted, have no energy. And it just takes practice. And so do you see this, right? So new thoughts, new words, new actions, new echoes. And this is why it matters what you consume, right? Who you're around and what you expose yourself to. Because new environments create new thoughts. New thoughts create new patterns, and new patterns create new results. Whether that's reading something that expands you or being around people who think bigger and are examples of what's possible. If you want to expand, it's powerful to be around the energy of expansion because, again, consciousness is shared. And that's a real powerful thing when you are around people that think big and are acting in big ways, making big moves, you're going to start. But whether if you're in a circle that's maybe plays small or isn't working on personal development or growth or wants to be more positive in their life and are, speaking negatively, gossiping, all of that drains any of the powerful work that you're putting in. And so when you are, using these affirmations, creating new thoughts and new patterns, it is so important to not cancel out all of that positivity by engaging with anything that's going to drain you or cancel out the positive declarations that you're saying. If I am saying I'm powerful, I'm unstoppable, I'm a magnet for miracles, and I keep my rituals and affirmation practice and journaling in that little bubble at home, but I go out and into the world and I'm not in alignment with who I am. Think about the echoes that's happening there. It's competing and it's canceling each other out and it gets muddled and chaotic. So that's where sometimes people aren't really seeing results because they're not in integrity with who they are in all areas. And that's where the true power is literally being that empowered version of you across all areas in love. Cause some people just thrive on like, I'm just so good at like in my job and my career, but then their relationships suffer. Guess what? You can have it all, right? So what words do you need to be saying? What thoughts do you need to be thinking to be that version? It's about being it before having it. And a lot of times we reverse it. We think if I have the $1,000,000, I will then be able to do all the things. If I have the body or the love, but you've got to be it, the embodiment, become what it is, become the person who chooses themselves and is a high value individual, right? And then you're going to get that reflected back. Your echoes are going to echo partners in that. You're going to become a magnet. Then that's when we go into the law of attraction, which is a whole nother law. So, because new environments create new thoughts create new patterns create new results. Whether that's reading something that expands you, being around people who think bigger, or even just pulling one new affirmation a day, because happiness is connected to expansion. Peace is connected to expansion and it requires courage. Like, who do I have to be peace? And for me, peace is the ultimate success. Because what's the point? I could have six-figure business and I could have all these things, but if I don't have peace in a certain area or more, all the other material stuff and all the other things you can't even enjoy, right? So, and don't forget, this affirmation is also really powerful for those of you who are like, I know I love where I'm at. I love the echoes that is happening in my life. Because I'm sure as I'm speaking in this episode, you could think about what you thought about maybe even a week ago, 2 months ago, even a year ago. That's positive. That has finally come into your life and echoed fully, and the other echoes had gone, right? And if you can reverse engineer, who did you become? Who were you around? What did you let go so that your reality reflected these new echoes? When I start saying these affirmations, like I'm capable, I'm powerful, I'm a powerful creator, bring all my visions and ideas to life. And that's why repetition is so powerful. Repeat, 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 so that your body, the human side of you, is literally reprogramming your subconscious. And then life, right, is going to echo that. And you're going to be changing these patterns. And you don't have to change your entire life overnight. You're just invited to start choosing intentionally and knowing if I want new echoes in my life when it comes to money, love, relationships, and my career, my health, what am I invited to start speaking? Or what are my affirmations going to be? And what are my actions? Not just the vision board and only affirmations and using visualization, which all of those are so powerful. And the more you invoke emotion into it, you're like a magnet. But because we live in the 3D world, we got to ground it. We got to take those steps, actualize them by taking the action. So if I have this vision of my business being six figures, how am I set up on the back end with my business? Could I even organize that much money? Do I have a system in place for money to feel safe? Everything's relationship and mirroring and echoing, and you have to be before you have. So it's about becoming. And again, the most powerful way is, what are you ready to let go of? What are you ready to claim? What actions are you going to take to be the version of you that has, so that when you pull that affirmation, you're like, wow, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I love what's echoing right now in my reality. And it's so powerful. So as I wrap up, I'm excited to announce that this episode is brought to you by Affirmation Babe, my brand that lives behind these affirmations you hear me talk about. Through Affirmation Babe, I've created the Affirmation Babe card deck and a journal in collaboration with my friend Clarita Escalante, founder of the Wellness Journal and Claridad, and my beautiful private membership community called Affirmation Academy. And inside the academy, we go deeper into this work for only $27 a month. And the most amazing thing is, right now, one of my incredible partners, Bologna Plastic Surgery, is actually gifting anyone who signs up for Affirmation Academy $100 credit towards a service. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And just remember, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. So choose your thoughts, choose your words, choose your actions, because your life is listening. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Please download, rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. Also, be sure to visit my website at teresacaesar.com to check out my inspirational merch, connect to my social accounts, and much more. May you continue to be filled with wisdom, inspiration, and consciousness. Otherwise, friends, I will be back for another episode of Heart to Talk.